Hey guys, I'm back. This ain't hope it works. This is I know it works. But I was going to just drop a little knowledge on y'all. I'm an avid hand loader. Been doing it since I was about 13, 14 years old. I'm now 48 years old. So I've had one or two pecan seasons under my belt on a reloading bench. I have an 8mm Mauser. It was a World War II bring home by my grandfather. It was passed down to my pop. And then when my pop passed away, it was given to me. It's one of my favorite rifles I own. I absolutely love it. I'd get rid of everything else, but I'd keep that Mauser. It's a German K98K made in Spandau. Production date is 1918. It's 102 years old. There's a problem. Cannot find ammunition a lot of times, so you have to be a reloader. You just don't buy this stuff. If we lived in Europe, hey, buy all you want. So, the dilemma is, since I'm a hand loader, finding brass is hard at times. Not all the time. I actually looked online last night and I actually found some. But I'm going to show you guys, any of you that have an 8mm and having trouble, do your hand loading. If you want brass and you can't come across it, you can take this. I don't know if you see it or not. I don't know how well my camera is going to pick all this little stuff up. This is a 30-06. Common as all get out. Well, we're going to turn this into that. That's an 8mm Mauser right here. This is an easy way to get brass inexpensively, but you got to know what you're doing. You have to take your time. You have to take the proper steps. If you don't take the proper steps, you'll have ruptured cases out the wazoo. So, other people do this. I don't know if there's any videos out on it. I hadn't really looked it up or anything like that, but I'm going to show you my way of turning a 30-06 into an 8mm Mauser safely, correctly, and with some consistency, so you will not lose your accuracy. Step one, we've got to resize these cases. These cases are pretty close. Now what I always do on every cartridge that I reload, I keep one round of brass that is absolutely perfect. There we go. I'll get the hang of this mess in a minute. This piece of brass is spec'd out absolutely perfect for what my rifle likes to shoot. All the dimensions are where I want them. This does not get reloaded. This piece of brass goes back in this box every time. When I'm reloading, I use this for a reference. What we're going to do is we're going to take these 30-06s and we're going to run them through the 8mm die. They're close enough to where you don't have to get a custom die. You don't have to really dump a whole lot of money into this operation, but you do have to be kind of careful. You're putting more stress on the brass. You're using the wrong die for this brass to make this brass what you want. We're pushing the shoulder down, and we've got to trim this brass. So as we push this shoulder down, you're going to have a lot of stress here. So you're going to see we're going to have to anneal these cases in between a couple of operations here. First things first, let's size them down. I'm a big fan of that Case Lube 2 by RCBS. I use it all the time. Matter of fact, that's the only one I use. I didn't drink the Kool-Aid. I didn't go buy all that spray stuff. I'm old school. I've done this stuff for so long. A gimmick to me is just a gimmick. You can buy all that expensive one shot you want. This stuff, that little bottle there, goes a long way. We're going to substantially coat this with lubrication, but we're not going to get too much. Just like any other operation, if you get too much lubrication, you're going to get shoulder dents. We don't want that because, you know, you pretty much trash the brass at that point. So I've got already treated this. My pad's ready. It's been scraped. There's no dirt on it. I'm going to get a good coat on here, but I'm not going to get so much that it's going to cause me problems with the neck and the shoulder. And I always use a Q-tip, especially on this operation. You need to go all the way down the neck with lubrication, because you're pushing a 323 thousandths ball through this mouth, and this mouth is only 301 thousandths. So let's get started. And I don't go fast. I little bit at a time. That's good. Just back and forth, little bit at a time. Don't want to overstress it. I want to keep it to where when I anneal it, it's a good stress-free shoulder and neck. Alright, operation number 1 is complete for this cartridge. As you can see, we've got some work to do, but we're going to turn this into a disc. Cartridge number 1 done. Lubed up real good inside the neck, real good, and we're going to repeat the process. Nice and easy, little bit at a time. No sense in being in a hurry. I know a lot of them young kids, they wanting to get into reloading, and they go buy a $3,000 progressive press. They haven't got a clue what they need to be looking for during those operations. And you know what? There's a lot of squibs that take place out there, and there's a lot of double charges. Single stage press, you can pay attention to what you're doing and do it safely. You don't save any money by buying 9mm and 40 and 45 ACP anyway. You just don't save any money on that. I got a piece of trash in there. There we go. Like I said, nice and slow. All right, our 3 cases are complete. We're going to move on to the next step. We're going to trim them, and then we're going to anneal them. That way we won't have a bunch of split cases. Okay, something I failed to mention a while ago, I always deprime my brass in a separate operation. It's the first thing I do, especially when I'm going from one size to another like that. There's going to be excessive pressure inside of the case. I want every air hole I can get to let that pressure out. It's just something that I do. It may not be 100% necessary. Like I said, I've done this for a long time, but it doesn't by any means mean that I know everything, because I don't. And if you have any questions about anything that I'm doing here today, or reloading or whatever, leave a comment, leave a question in the comments, and I'll get back to you. I check that stuff from time to time, and if I don't know the answer, guess what? I know a guy. All right. This is an El Cheapo Harbor Freight cutoff saw, mini cutoff saw. I mean, it's dirt cheap. I've had it for a long time. It's been beat all to pieces. I've cut every kind of thing in the world with it, probably things that I shouldn't cut. But what I've done with it is, this is a jig that I made out of epoxy putty. It is perfect for this saw. I snapped that case in there, and boom, there we go. It's where it needs to be. Now, I cut these things just a hair long. Factory specs on this stuff is 2.240. That's your hole length. That's your length of your brass. That's where your target is. My rifle, however, tends to shoot them better at about 2.2 2.239, somewhere in there. Not much difference when you're measuring it, but it really makes a difference in the load that I have worked up. So I've already got this set up, got an index mark. I've already cut one just to measure it, just to make sure, so I wouldn't have to make adjustments on camera. So this is simple. It sits in my jig like that. It does not go anywhere. All I have to do is get my high-tech hold down tool here, hold this cartridge in there, and we're going to zip them off. Just as simple as that. Always cut it off before you go to handling your work. That's a good way to get bitten, because these old dogs, any kind of dog like this will bite you. Alrighty, all those are cut off. My jig moved a little bit. Now I'm going to see just where we're at. Don't know if you can see that, but 2.238. Once I clean the shoulder up, that thing will be perfect. That's how we get them to the right length. Alright guys, on to the next step. This time, this step's going to be, we're going to anneal these cases with my little homemade rig here. Ain't fancy, but she works. I've got my times figured out. It works best for this setup. That is a bowl of water right here. So here we go. There, done. Alright guys, got them dried off, brake clean, that's the great stuff. If you can look and see, I don't know if the camera's going to allow it, but the cartridge on this cartridge right here on this side, this is an 8mm Mauser cartridge. This is the 30-06 cartridge that we just sized down basically. Well, sized the neck out and then sized the shoulder back. If you'll look, this shoulder is not near as defined as this one. So our next step is fire forming. That's the fun stuff. Get to piss the neighbors off. Alright, these guys are ready to fire form. I'm not going to tell you what I put in them, liability purposes. That's a load that you're going to have to work up yourself. You have to figure that out, what works best for you. I've done this enough to where I know how much of what to use. I will say that I use a pretty fast pistol powder and the cream of wheat method. But the kicker on that is I live in the South. We don't have none of that nasty cream of wheat down here. So this is the Southern method, which is the grit method. Although it does seem like a damn waste of some fine eating stuff. But my next step is we're going to go out here, we're going to fire form these cases and come back in, and hopefully the camera will show you how the annealing first, fire forming, afterwards puts that neck angle at a more defined state. And one thing that I do is after I fire form and inspect my necks and make sure they're like I want them, then I'll re-anneal them and they're good to go, ready to load. Alrighty, we'll see you here in a minute. Well, there you have it. Went and fire formed them. Everything come out good, scared the shit out of the neighbors. But successfully took a 30-06 round, turned it into an 8mm Mauser round. I was wanting to video exactly how well that fire forming defines the shoulder after you anneal it, but I went back and looked at some of the video and you just can't see it that good. I got a little cheap camera, so unfortunately you have to take my word for it. What I've done, what we did, we resized a 30-06 brass, pushed the shoulder down, annealed it, we trimmed it, fire formed it, and boom, now we have 8mm brass. Here's the kicker. I do not have a 30-06 on my property. I do not own one, and actually only one of my friends has one. You have to be very careful that these don't get in the wrong person's hands when it comes to firearm safety. Because if someone were to take this, 30-06 loaded ammo, slam it in there, I don't know for sure that it would even chamber up in a 30-06 because I don't own one, and I just don't know. But it would be dangerous. It would be very dangerous. It wouldn't be good. But here you go. In a pinch, you ain't got no brass. You got an 8mm Mauser. You want to make it go bang a few times. Find you some 30-06 brass. Make sure you're familiar with reloading processes. And then boom, you got you some brass. Y'all have any questions about any of the reloading stuff, shooting or whatever, put it in the comments, and I'll read the comments. I'll get back to it. And if I don't know, I know a guy. Y'all have a good day.